Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mortgage Insider Edition with myself, Kim Nguyen, and like always is my partner in crime here, Preet Singh, with both of us with Vine Group. And today we've got a special guest on here, Jeff Prediger with Cartwright Appraisals out in Edmonton. Jeff, thank you for having us, or thank you for coming on our show. For this show today, we're going to be talking all about appraisals. We're going to be going over the FAQ, some myths that clients may have, and again, we have Jeff as our expert here to kind of shed some light. So maybe Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself, right? How long have you been in the industry? Tell us a little bit about Cartwright, just so our listeners know a little bit more about you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me as well. So yes, I'm over at Cartwright Appraisals. I've been appraising myself for about 15 years now. So I moved over to Cartwright Appraisals last year and purchased Cartwright Appraisals. So there's a team of about 8 of us, so we are running crazy, getting as many residential appraisals as we can in a day for brokers. That's our main.
And you're still active, and so that means it's good, right? You're still loving yourself, loving life.
Yeah. It has slowed, but we're still staying busy enough. So I'm sure you guys see that. So.
Of course. Well, Preet, I guess, let's kick it off with some questions that we have here. I think, Preet, take it away.
Absolutely. Welcome, Jeff. Welcome to the Mortgage Insiders Edition. Yeah, I appreciate every time you help me out with my clients, and your team is doing a fantastic job. And probably today, our listeners, our viewers across the channel will learn more about the inside world of appraisals, and we will appreciate your insights. So the first question, or let's say the first myth we always hear from our customers is, my neighbor's home sold for X amount, so mine should also appraise for the same or a higher amount. How much myth is it valid? Is it like, what would you say? Yeah.
It is a myth and it is true.
Yeah.
So to determine an appraised value, an appraiser would use a direct comparison approach, which is the most reliable way to determine value on a residential property. So in an appraisal, you have to use 3 comparables, ideally within the same neighborhood or in similar locations within the same city. If your neighbor's, for example, your neighbor's home sold for 500, that would be a very good comparable sale. But then you have to remember there could be a lot of differences between your house and their house. Could be 200 or 300 square feet bigger or smaller, could be fully renovated. It could have a basement suite, fully developed basement, garage, no garage. So yes, if your neighbor's house sold for 500, it would be a very good indication of value if your home is very similar. But that comparable would most likely be used, and then adjustments made for all the things that I just mentioned. All the attributes of the house would be accounted for to maybe say you don't have a developed basement and you come up to 470, right? And your neighbor has a developed basement that might put them at 500. Or they have a pool in the backyard. So every influence on the property should be adjusted for when you would be comparing your house versus a house down the street. So
it's not only the age of the house or the look of the house, what features are included in the house that would matter. That's what, in short, we can say, right? So
finishing condition upgrades. For example, though, like Southeast Edmonton, say Laurel, for example, all the homes on one block could be 22 to 2,400 square feet, all brand new spec, no landscaping. That'd be a very good indication that yes, your house is worth what your neighbor's house is worth because they're all brand new, similarly sized, and all the builders do similar spec in like a suburb neighborhood. So
I think maybe even just jumping on that note too. So if another client myth that we always see is that, okay, if a client develops their basement and they spend like 40,000, they instantly think that, their home is going to go up by 40,000. Like, how much truth is in that statement then, if we're looking at those kind of comparables?
Myself and at our company, like if someone's developing a basement for 40 grand, probably is worth 40 grand of contributory value. Say that same basement's being developed with a wet bar, that's another 25 grand. The basement probably isn't worth 65, but like on a builder spec, I'd say new development on a basement, 30, 40K is reasonable. And you should see the value out of the appraised value if you're developing a basement from bare. I know you guys do investment properties, and I appraise a lot of properties that are getting like flipped with legal suites in the basement or duplexes and 2 suites going in the basement. And I come across appraisals like weekly that come on my desk from other lenders and other brokers, and they're like, does this make sense? And I saw one like a week and a half ago, fully developed walkout basement with a legal suite in Keswick, and it was a $1 million home, and that appraiser gave the basement $45,000.
Really?
That's a $100,000 plus basement.
Yeah.
And these bungalows that people are flipping and doing the 2 suites in one house, like a 1,200 square foot, 1,100 square foot bungalow. I mean, those basements are pushing, they're above 60 now. Those developers are paying $70K to develop those legal suites in Edmonton, at least, with the 2 furnaces and all the regulations that are required now. So for like something like that, I see value out of it because it's adding the legal secondary suite, which makes it a legal rentable unit with a market rent for the lender, right? But I've seen lots like fully developed walkout legal suite 45K. That's a joke. That's 100,000 plus basement.
Yeah.
Ones that are renovated and flipped are $65,000 basements.
Yeah.
So I see the value out of it. Like the 40K basement is probably going to add 40K. It just might not if they put a golf simulator in, or like I said, a $15,000, $20,000 wet bar, right? That's where you might not see the value out of a basement development.
Right. So I guess it's safe to say that, again, just because you develop your basement, there are still other external factors that could contribute towards the value, right? It's not necessarily always dollar for dollar. And I'm assuming like this probably goes in line with everything else. Like I know, Jeff, on some deals that we've done together where a client would say, Kim, I put 20,000 in my backyard, right? Like I built a really nice garden bed and I built this fence with the top of the line, like, I don't know, lumber or something. And I think sometimes for things like landscaping, I don't think you would get dollar for dollar an approved value, right? Is that kind of the case as well too? Like it just really depends.
Yeah, you're right on. Like the least contributory value that gets awarded to properties could be landscaping. $1 million home in Riverstone Point or Balmoral Heights, their 3rd acreages, estate living. Some people put $300,000-$400,000 in landscaping on $1 million home. So their house isn't worth 1.3 overnight because they landscaped it with a pool and a tennis court and a waterfall. They do it because they're living there and they choose to spend their money that way.
Yeah.
So landscaping is probably literally one of the worst contributory values in property value when you dish out.
So Preet, like what about what I think like one other thing that Preet and I were talking about as well too is, on that note, again, so what factors can help us like increase the property value? So we do have a client right now, they're looking to refinance, pull some equity or yeah, just anything in general where maybe they're looking to sell their home, right? Maybe they want to sell their home, they want to get the most bang for their buck. What kind of factors can actually increase the value? Like what's the most bang for your buck? Like what are things that they should focus on? I know now we know landscaping, building a pool may not make the most sense for everyone, but what else do we have then? Like what could we do? What could our listeners do?
Well, I know most people traditionally say, oh, fix your bathroom, fix your kitchen, etc. Those are the most expensive things to do. So they should add the most value to your property. But like I always tell people, like spruce up your property. If you have good cabinets, refinish your kitchen cabinets. Put new hardware on them so your handles for your cabinets aren't from the 80s. Repaint your house. Maybe put new interior doors and baseboards in with vinyl plank flooring. That's all stuff that's like affordable, and you're not ripping a kitchen out and putting a new $40,000 kitchen in, or having to take bathrooms out because you won't. If you spend $20,000 on a new bathroom, you won't see 20 grand out of it. If you put 40 in a new kitchen, you won't. But if you spend 10, 15 grand having the cabinets refinished, some new hardware, door hardware, maybe interior doors, baseboards, trim. Everyone's doing vinyl plank these days. You can turn in a house that's original from 1970 and shade carpet and has been smoked in to a very nice, presentable home with a few like cosmetic touch-ups besides like ripping kitchens out and ripping bathrooms out.
Yeah, I noticed the same kind of example. One of investor bought a property in Ortville area here in Edmonton. And only upgrade that I saw in that property was the flooring. They changed the flooring and it changed the look of the property, totally different property. So the buyer was very much enticed by the feel of the property after that flooring was upgraded, right? So yeah, I agree with that approach, not to spend too much money on the bigger projects rather than spending the money on smaller things, detailed items. Would you say those would be the detailed items, Jeff? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Like people are taking out oak cabinets from the 80s and 90s, but you have real oak wood in your house. So maybe take that oak wood, if you don't like the color of it, refinish the color, or even paint white to become more contemporary. But why take like good solid
evergreen
wood house and replace it with lots of people are doing IKEA cabinets? I can tell you, oak wood is a better product than an IKEA front face cabinet. Right? So refinish stuff, spruce things up, paint stuff, replace handles, right?
It's just such an interesting time right now because, at one point in time, I don't know, like some clients would be like, okay, I'm like, engineered hardwood is so much better. It'll add so much value. But it's funny hearing you say, Jeff, that, vinyl plank is a common thing. And really, I don't think there would be much difference if you're finishing the floors with engineered hardwood versus vinyl. Like LVP, like, is there a huge difference that you would see in value on that? Like, I mean, aesthetically, it still looks the same, no, right? Like, it still would look good, but would you see some valuation on that? Like some differences?
Some luxury vinyl plank costs just as much or more than hardwood.
Interesting.
You have a nice home. People traditionally want hardwood, but if say you have dogs, you don't want to put hardwood. You put a vinyl plank in because it doesn't scratch and it's very easily replaceable, right?
Sure.
So I see in new builds a lot more plank than anything right now. Vinyl plank. Maybe it's a fad or a trend. I don't know. But right now it's happening. So
Jeff, suddenly a question came to my mind. This is a very common question. I'm pretty much sure Kim also heard the same thing. City assessments. So people always compare the property value to the city assessment. My property value was assessed by city for X amount. Sometimes clients say, yeah, this is a low number. Sometimes they say this is a high number. So how much do you rely upon that data that is provided by city of Calgary or city of Edmonton or even a county? Sometimes I see some websites provide some data on the county websites too.
Yeah, most municipalities have a website that you can find it on. I mean, that number is basically just a number so everyone can be taxed as a general base.
Yeah.
I mean, assessments, and a lot of people always say, oh, this is what Honest Door said my house is worth. Appraisal, there's a spot that it says, what's the assessed value? So we have to put it in because the appraisal asks for it. But I mean, they can be accurate. They can be 100,000 off. You could have a renovated house that an assessor's never been back in and be $300,000 off. Like traditionally, appraisers don't weigh value, like actual value of the property, of what the assessment is, because I mean it's all over the place. Infill neighborhoods are especially all funky and off because it's very hard for municipalities, I think, to keep up on like current land values in very desirable areas in infill neighborhoods.
And those are 6 months behind always, 6 to 1 year behind, right? So.
But like earlier this year when the market was, everything was flying off the handle, like there were some assessments that were like 100,000 low, and the market's a little bit, but in like, I don't know, in Edmonton, a house that was worth 400 in May is probably still worth 400 today. Maybe not in Ontario or BC, a house that was 2 million might not be worth it, but I think in Edmonton or Calgary, 400K in May is 400K right now, relatively speaking, percent or two maybe lower.
Well, I guess, Jeff, like, I mean, like, to wrap up here then, I guess one final question that we have, like, Preet and I are always, we like looking into the future. What's your prediction? Where do you see home, like, because I know, like I said, you're based out of Alberta. So where do you see the Alberta market? What's your 2 cents on that? Do you think appraised values will stay? Like, for our listeners who may want to do a refinance, should they do it now or should they wait? What's your 2 cents on that?
The best time was probably a few months ago, but I mean, it's probably still better to do one now than wait for the fall. But Alberta for the last 10 years has been pretty stagnant. We haven't had too much appreciation in our properties in probably 10 years. So, I mean, we'll go up 5%, come down 3, go down 6, come up 8. I think like RPS Brookfield put the stats out, and I think Edmonton year over year from last July is up 8.2%. But you like in their charts, everyone went up and everyone has like skydived back down a bit, like 10 to 12%. And Edmonton's not on that chart, but Calgary's on that chart, and Calgary went up and flatlined and hasn't come back down yet. Maybe a little bit down, but like the rest have come like down in Canada, but Calgary up and pretty straight across flatline into July. So prediction, I think our properties are so affordable, like even in relationship to like you can be in the suburbs in North Edmonton and be 15 minutes from downtown. That have duplex or that single family is going to be worth 400, 500, right? Still. Our appreciation is never the best, but which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. I don't know.
Hey, but our cash flow is good, okay? Like I will have to say, like in Alberta, you know, it's still good. Like there's still cash flowing properties, especially for the investors.
Yeah, I think our are like very high for property value, and I think wages in Alberta are higher than BC and Ontario in most industries. So if you're buying a house for a third of the price, why not, right?
And
With
no
high
PST on top of that.
investment, yeah.
Great,
And
so
no land transfer tax as well too. So that's another bonus. Well, Jeff, thank you so much. Preet, is there anything else that I think I've covered everything, right? I think I've
pretty
got it
much.
all.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, Jeff, always a pleasure. Thank you for stopping by on our show here, and we hope to have you as a guest again. And for everyone listening, if you do want Jeff's contact information, we will link his handle onto our videos. We'll have his information on the description box as well too. Or if you're listening from Spotify, wherever you found the link, you'll get his info on there. Or you can always reach out to myself or Preet. Again, Jeff, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your wise words. I know you're super busy, and like I said, you know, we hope to see you again on the show. Thanks everyone for listening.